Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the H2 Show. We are here. We are live. We are here at 5:32 according to my screen, 5:33 according to my phone. I'm going to scroll down and get some information pulled up here. It is Monday, the 24th. We are here on Adamson Square, and we are back with you today. I did want to mention yesterday was National Banana Bread Day, and I actually went to the store, bought some banana nut muffins, and then forgot to bring them up here. But we'll get you a picture of those as I enjoy my breakfast because I love to share a pastry with you all. I also found out that I may be paying for a service called Epidemic Sounds and paying more than I thought I was going to. So we're going to figure that out too. So we may be changing the intro if y'all are all good with that. It is also National Tortilla Day today. Wanted to get y'all a little summary on that. We did Corn Chip Day a few weeks ago. I can't even remember at this point. I'm starting to lose track of time. Friday, we went through the Walk at 5, which was our first episode of the Walk at 5 because it wasn't a drive at 5 for me. The reason for that Walk at 5 turned out to be a battery. I didn't know this, but in my Chevy Volt 2013, any advice on that by anybody in the comments, I'm glad to hear it. The Chevy Volt, they need a 600 amp battery, and apparently it freaks out a little bit whenever the battery goes dead, and we'll tell you things like, hey, your motor's not in service or motor not available and lower propulsion and all the things that it was telling me, and then throw in six codes when you check the OBD. But when it warmed up on Friday, started running, took it over to the AutoZone, got it tested. Long story short, got a new battery in, and we are back up and rolling. Let's move on to the tortilla chip, which is a delicious snack. The tortilla chip is widely credited to Rebecca Wade Carranza. She was a Los Angeles-based tortilla factory owner. So what would happen, and this started about the 1940s or 1950s, her machine would actually like kick out any of these rejected tortillas. So it's trying to make tortillas, regular size tortillas. It would kick out any of them that were misshapen or were not the right size. And so she decided, hey, what if I just fried these up and sold them? So she fried them up and sold them for, I think, $10 a bag, and they were a big hit. And it became it was at the I'll have to look closer, Zarape Tortilla Factory. And then obviously tortillas come from their traditional Mexican cuisine, and they eventually became popular. The tortilla chip did. They became mass produced in the 60s-ish. And then from there, she actually was given the Golden Tortilla Award in 1994 for her contributions to Mexican food. And I think we can all be excited that the tortilla chip exists. I enjoyed an entire basket and a half probably yesterday with some queso dip. And as we said today, so what are we going to talk about? I have some fun facts of the day. Did you know, fun fact of the day, that a giraffe is 30 times more likely to hit by lightning than a person? It seems pretty obvious. There are only the 5 well-documented fatal lightning strikes of giraffes between 1996 and 2010. But due to the population of the species being just 140,000 during that time, it makes it about 0.0003 deaths per 1,000 giraffes each year. And that's the 30 times the equivalent fatality rate for humans. We all know why. I mean, giraffes are huge. They're giants. All right, and then let's talk about the world's oldest dog. The world's oldest dog lived to 29 and a half years old. That's an old dog. I guess that's 210-ish years in dog years. Dogs tend to only be somewhere between 10 and 15 years old, so almost twice the normal lifespan of a dog. It was an Australian cattle dog, and guess what its name was? Nobody in the comments. I know somebody knows the name. Anybody who has kids. Okay, fine. It's Bluey. So the Bluey was the Australian cattle dog that lived to the ripe old age of 29 and a half. The world's oldest cat lived to be 38 years old and 38 and 3 days, and his name was Cream Puff. What a great name for a cat. I imagine it was a fat cat and probably well taken care of. Maybe had some stairs to get up and down from the bed. Not sure if that's true, but I'm just going to pretend it is because that's what spoiled cat owners do. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this one is interesting to me because it's science-based. The sun makes a sound. but we can't hear it. In the form of a pressure wave, the sun does make a sound. The wavelength of the pressure wave from the sun is measured in hundreds of miles, however, meaning that they are far beyond the range of human hearing. That's kind of interesting to me. I wonder if we can catch that and like slow it down so that we could hear what the sun sounds like. Did anybody check out these videos and pictures from Mars? I thought that was pretty interesting. I go back to, I wonder if that's real or not. I know it is, but it just like your brain can't comprehend the fact that it's that it is real. With that, let's move to this day in history. So this day in history, Pope Gregory the 13th announces the Gregorian calendar. So that would be the calendar that a lot of people are on these days. Then the world's first, opera premiered in this day in 1607. In 1839, William Otis invents the steam shovel. And then in 1867, the House of Representatives voted to impeach President Andrew Johnson. The vote followed bitter opposition by the Republicans in Congress toward Johnson's Reconstruction policies in the South. However, the effort to remove him failed in the Senate by just one vote. So basically, in 1967 then into 1968, Andrew Johnson became the first U.S. president to become impeached. In 1868 because I'm an idiot. I said 1867 to 1868. In 1868, the first parade to have floats is held. In 1920, the German Nazi Party is founded, and Adolf Hitler became the party's leader in 1921. In 1946, Juan Perón is elected president of Argentina. 1970, NPR is founded. And this one was interesting, and I thought it was kind of prescient considering what's happening these days with airplane and flight travel. Is in 1969, is it 69 or 89? Hold on. 89. Golly, I'm going to have to get glasses. Like transition lenses. A Boeing 747 jet opened up over the Pacific Ocean. United Flight 831 experienced an explosive decompression, resulting in the death of 9 passengers. In 2010, Sachin Tendulkar became the first cricket player to score a double century in the one-day tournament or one-day international format. The Indian sportsman is widely recognized as one of the greatest batsmen in cricket. How about that? Cricket, a sport that I'm still yet to understand. I know there's wickets. I know you're throwing the ball or you're rolling the ball, and I know you hit the ball, and you can score like 6 points at a time or something to that effect, but still trying to figure out cricket. Haven't figured that one out. All right, let's transition over to some birthdays. And today in 1885, Admiral Chester Nimitz, the World War II fleet admiral. In 1942, Joe Lieberman. 1955, we got bad eyesight, y'all. Alain Prost, the French race car driver. In 1955, Steve Jobs, the man that made this show possible in a lot of ways because we're working off of a Mac and we're using a cell phone that is from Apple. In 1956, Judith Butler. 1956, also Eddie Murray. And in 1981, Leighton Hewitt, an Australian tennis player. And then some local celebrities I'd like to give a shout out to. David Forrest, Dr. Forrest, happy birthday. Jeremy Brown Thurman, happy birthday. And Courtney Wortham. Courtney and I were in high school together, and I believe we did some weightlifting back in the day. So back when I was in high school, I was all obsessed with Rocky, not Rocky Horror Picture Show, though that was a good one too. Hot Patootie, bless my soul. I really love that rock and roll, but more Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion. Which, funny story, I'll let you look it up for yourself, but that was a movie that he was in before he wrote the script for the Rocky movies and got assigned as the main character and filmed that. Rocky may have had what was his version or his generation's version of an OnlyFans, so to speak. So we'll move on from there. I was really obsessed with Rocky. Thought it was awesome. Loved a montage. Loved a good, Eye of the Tiger. But my favorite one, I think, was number 4. I think it's probably the best one until Rocky Balboa, and I think it aged with me. But the reason I love the movie is that underdog story. I was a small guy, still am a small guy, I guess, relative to the people I was working out with, and kept me motivated. So we'd go up there. I don't know. We'd get in the gym by 7, but I was leaving the house probably at 6 or whatever, and then watching the movies in my little Ford Ranger, just putting my little DVD player in and checking those out. And I even had the VHS tapes at one time. But point is, got to work out with a lot of great people. Friend of mine, Nick Harris and Courtney, Stuart Cook, just some fantastic people that we worked out with over there at the gym. And some of my favorite memories making friends was in the weightlifting room over at Central High School. So, all right, with that, we'll transition. I want to read y'all a poem. And the reason I chose this poem, I was listening to TikTok, and the guy that plays Alfred on the Christian Bale trilogy of Batman was reading this out. So I think I'll remember his name in a little bit, but here's the poem, If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on a turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Rudyard Kipling. And that's the poem, If. So the reason I love that poem is I think it challenges us to be humble yet confident, and to see in ourselves that we are in full control of who we are, that everything is a choice. I said that to someone last night. They said, hey, I was up till 3 a.m. And I was like, and then I was up at 6, and I had to go do this. And I was like, well, it sounds like a choice. You chose to be up to 3 a.m. And somebody made the funny statement to me that if you're gonna hoot with the night owls, you gotta get up in the morning with the roosters or whatever it was. And it's basically saying that if you've got work to do, just get it done. As simple as that. If you do what needs to be done, you can beat most people, because I think we all get hung up on the extraordinary and doing the extraordinary. But if you do the ordinary in an extraordinary way, and by that I mean consistently and over time, you'll outrun the other people at the end of the day. So with that, let's transition. I have some stuff I want to talk to you about in both the national news, but also a TV show I watched. So over the weekend, I watched a show called The Pit. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's on Max. I found out about the show from TikTok and from a YouTuber that I watch called Dr. Mike. So Dr. Mike was rated the hottest doctor in America or something, and he spun that into doing a really good YouTube program where he talks about review shows and their accuracy. He talks about cases he's been through and that sort of thing. But in this case, he was talking about this show because it's called The Pit, and in it, I forget the guy's name. I think it's Noah Wiley, maybe. He's the kind of head of this emergency department, and the first season is taking place over just one single day. But the reason I thought I found something super interesting in there was this African-American gentleman comes in who's having heart failure, and he has a pacemaker, and he keeps kind of going in and out because obviously he's not got good blood flow, and he's struggling to kind of stay awake. But he's talking what they thought was a little crazy, and the stage is set for him to be some sort of medical, involved in the medical field. And then he tells them that he was part of the Freedom House ambulance service. And that really kind of puts everybody in awe. I've never heard of the Freedom House ambulance service. I didn't realize this was a real thing and that it existed in Pittsburgh, but it did. And so in 1966, there was the Pittsburgh Hill District, which was predominantly an African-American neighborhood, was facing severe poverty, unemployment, and the emergency medical services were kind of sparse, and it took local ambulances a long time to respond. And they were traditionally ran by police officers and old, funeral home drivers. So they were really focused on transport, not on giving medical care, not what we think of in the traditional sense. So then Phil Halen, the president of the Maurice Falk Medical Fund, and Dr. Peter Safer, which is a University of Pittsburgh anesthesiologist and the pioneer of CPR, they conceived a plan to kind of close that gap. And so they ended up launching the Freedom House, and Freedom House Enterprise Corporation secured funding from the Falk Fund, HUD, and the Labor Department, and recruited 25 African-American men. Mostly were unemployed or Vietnam vets from the Hill District, and they were trying to create the first civilian paramedic style service. So then in 1967 and 1968, Dr. Safer designed a rigorous 300-hour curriculum. And so that's what they were talking about in the show, is that they kind of designed the first curriculum for EMTs. And, it kind of became the existing standard, was way beyond the existing standard. The existing standard is about an 81-hour EMT course, and that was introduced in later 1969. So trainees in this particular case learned cardiac resuscitation, IV fluids, airway management, medication administration, and apparently they were even doing intubation in the field at the time, or learning that anyway. So lots of interesting stuff, but This lowered the response time, and ultimately they had responded to over 5,800 calls in the first year and served the over 100,000 residents across the Hill District and Oakland. So, amazing thing. They treated heart attacks, overdoses, trauma on scene, and they slashed the response time from 30 plus minutes to under 10. So, with this being Black History Month and this getting mentioned on the show, I thought it was very important that I point out how, in this particular case, the Hill District became, a model and a training model for them to ultimately pass on to what is now modern day EMS or emergency medical services. So I'll try to find the article I was referencing there and get that information posted as a link. But excellent job, and I applaud the show for writing that in a way that didn't feel heavy-handed. Oftentimes, you can feel like you're being preached to. They didn't do that. It was very organic in the show, and I admire the writers for being good at that. So, doing their job, writing. So, in national news, Doge is actually now impacting some stock prices. I think it's more than just Doge, it's the administration. The stock price of UNH or United Healthcare has kind of took a pretty big hit. And the reason for that is that the DOJ announced a civil fraud probe into the company's Medicare billing, and it put the stock down almost 20%. So, and that's since last Monday. So we can look right now. I'll pull it up live so we can see what they look like now. See if they've come back from it. Not much. They took a little bounce. Looks like they're down still 10.7 over the last week. And year to date, they're down about 8%. So came back up a little. Interesting that it popped like that. Starts to wonder if there was some insider trading, that somebody knew that the investigation was coming. I'm of the opinion that our Congress people and people that serve in the government have impact over what these companies are allowed to do, or lawsuits that could impact these companies. Shouldn't be able to just trade stocks outright. I think that leads to dangerous behavior. That maybe index funds would be the only thing they should be able to trade in. But that's my opinion. You tell me down in the comments. What's your opinion? Okay, and then the infamous Doge email that came out this week, which was basically tell me, some bullet points of what you did last week. I think that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like, what are you up to? Have you actually contributed to progress? If Elon is to be believed, and I think he's probably being honest on this question. He basically said he's concerned that some people just aren't even checking their email, and that some people are doing so little work for the U.S. government that essentially they wouldn't check their email. And so this is really just a test of, do you respond or not? Now, some of the departments, like the Department of Justice and the FBI, have said they're going to ignore it and not do anything. Here's the deal. If you can't, I know it seems like micromanaging, but the reality is, after what we saw with the Social Security thing, where people are 300 and something years old, and then they came back and told us that in 2021 they did this audit and they knew that there were people on the rolls, at least marked as alive, that were 369 years old and 20 million over 100 years old. Start to wonder, are they doing the right thing about sending this email out? Just say, yes, I'm still working here, and here's what I did last week. I mean, if this was every week, maybe not, but in some ways it's like, hey, we need to figure out who's actually doing some work around here. Just like we need to figure out if people are actually alive that are collecting Social Security. I don't see any issue with that. But, you tell me. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm wrong. The S&P had its worst performance last week, and then Berkshire Hathaway has taken a large cash position. So I'm wondering if back to some of these things where people know a little bit more than us, if there's not a need for exploration of, should I get into a cash position because there's going to be some adversity and some controversy for a little bit, and stocks are going to kind of get beat down. I don't know the answer to that question, but it does have me curious. It piqued my curiosity that Berkshire Hathaway has its largest cash position in maybe since 2008. I can't remember exactly. Let me look back here. Yeah, so Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway just announced they now have a record $334 billion in cash. Obviously, they have more cash than they did in the previous because they've grown, but it's interesting. To put this into perspective, between Q1 2024 and Q4 2024, their cash balance rose a massive $145 billion. So maybe it means nothing. Let's see. Their balance sheet looks like this. They now hold 286.5 billion of US Treasury bonds, 44.3 billion of cash in their insurance and other businesses. So, it seems like a lot of what they're doing here is converting to cash, and I wonder if they're either getting revved up to make a positional switch on, some long-term investments. They tend to buy companies that are undervalued and then hold them for a long period of time. So that's, something to keep an eye on. Everybody has to make their own call on that and what to do with it. So let's move on. I want to talk about one more thing. Let me go back to, what was I going to hit on? What did cash position? What did Doge? I spaced. I don't remember what I was going to say, but that's okay. That's why we do this live, so y'all can see all the embarrassing things I do. Let's hit on the existing home sale growth and what price range those are in. So I did want to talk about the fact that the lower price ranges are just not selling, and then the middle tier is not selling. So the 0 to 100,000, the growth year over year is down 14.2%, probably because there's not a whole lot of those out there. The 100 to 250,000 down 1.2, and then the ones that are up are 18.6% in the 750 to $1 million range, and then the 1 million plus range up 26.9%, with the average growth on sales of 2%. So very, very heavily focused in the higher dollar value, what I would call basically rich. If you're buying $1 million house, I definitely say that's rich. All right. I think that brings us to this time, my favorite time, the verse of the day. So let's do this. Let's go through and settle in a little bit. Know that I love you guys. I want you guys to have a fantastic week. Whether you're a believer or not a believer, I think you can find something in the scriptures that we read. And I like to read them every day. So let's read from Galatians 5:14 from the NIV. All right. Galatians 5:14, for the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. So how about that? It's pretty simple. We're to love each other, love our neighbors as ourselves. And if we do that, we fulfill God's commandment. And what I think he's saying there is that everybody should love yourself. And there's another scripture that says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then love your neighbor as yourself. So the intention here is to tell you, back to that mission-focused, other-centered philosophy that we talk about all the time, is you are responsible for loving others so that they can know the love of God. And you're supposed to help connect them to God. Somebody described the cross. Obviously, you got the cross, right? This is the cross on the vertical is you and God and your relationship with him. And then this horizontal is about how you spread your arms open wide to bring the love of God to others, and then bring them back to that relationship with Christ. So that is the challenge in loving your neighbor as yourself. I wanted to leave you with a riddle for tomorrow because I want you to answer it in the comments as you listen. And then I want to ultimately, I'll give you the answer tomorrow if you got it right or not. And we will highlight those people that get it right in the comments. So in a new segment we call Riddle Me This. Here we go. Born in a shell, yet I swim with the tide, plucked from the deep where the sea creatures hide. I melt into warmth, yet I never was cold. A fusion of flavors, both new and quite bold. A paradox, thick, yet it flows with great ease. Briny yet creamy, it aims to appease. Some know me pale like a blanket of mist, while others see red. Still I always persist. What am I? All right, what am I? And I will say it's a food, so I'll give you that. Again, I'll say that you are going to do great things because you know how to do hard things. Here at the H2 Show, we love you. We're glad you join us every day for the drive at 5, even if you join at 5 p.m., at 5 a.m., or if you join us at some time while you're trying to go to sleep because you hate my voice. I don't care why you join. I hope that I can entertain you, maybe give you a little bit of education and information. At lunch today, I will be going over the STAR method of interviewing, how to answer an interview for a job interview. I'll go over that with you unless something comes up, and we'll talk through that. But you're going to go do great things because I know you know how to do hard things. We love you. We don't say goodbye. We say see you real soon. But with that,